welcome.
Thank you.
I'm super excited that you're here. Manthurs is your name. I know you, but I want you to give the background on like the origin of your name, where you're from, and how you got this awesome name.
Okay, cool. So my name is Manthurs, as you said. Legal name, Manthurs. But my creative social media name is Street Host. Okay, so let me first start with how my legal first name came about. That was a name given to me by my auntie, actually, in Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, born and raised, moved to the U.S. when I was 17. And I've been living here ever since and going to college. I went to college here, graduated UT. And during that time at UT, I was wondering what I could do that could help me start off my career in TV and radio, broadcast in general, just presenting and being a host that I've always pictured myself to be. Someone like Jimmy Fallon or Kevin Hart or
the energy you have right now is like perfect for it.
I've always, and I was like, that day actually when this thought started was when DDG came into town. Do you know who DDG is?
Yeah,
he came into town, Austin, doing like meet and greets and stuff like that. And I was like, this guy knew he wanted to be a rapper, but he started off doing YouTube. He did not just sit around waiting for rap to find him or a company to sign him. He had to go get it. But he did not do that straight off. He started with YouTube, and then along the line, as he started getting his own audience, he started to do rap and stuff like that. So what can I do, to leverage what I have, utilize the resources that are readily available to me before NBC reaches out to me like, hey, Manthurs, can you host this? Or Comedy Central, and then that's when I was like, okay, I'm pretty good at talking to people. Someone's told me I'm good at interviewing. Since I was born, people have always told me that I ask so many questions and they're really good questions. I should be a lawyer, but I had no interest in that. So maybe that skill and that gift would be transferable in this. And then I was like, okay, what is something I could create that would use street interview, that would use questions that I know how to ask, talking to people, building good rapport, all of that. And I was like, people do street interviews. Maybe I should do that. And a friend of mine, David, actually helped me think through that process because we were both going to see DDG that day. And I know I've been rambling and stuff.
No, but, I love it.
But that evening, I think around that time was when that name was born, because I always would see
Street Host. Name? Okay.
Street Host, because I always would see future content that says she's for the streets, and I always liked that streets part because I knew it was the street, but just said in a really funny, fancy way, right, in my opinion. And I was like, I like that, and I want to be a host. Street Host.
And that's where we got it.
Yeah, and that's where it started.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's your social media name. That's kind of your handle out in the world.
Yeah.
What about Manthurs? Your legal name. First of all, how do you spell it? And then how did you get that? How did that happen?
Okay. So it's spelled Manthurs.
Okay.
And as I said, my auntie gave me the name, my mom's elder sister. She has this fun habit of just naming people's kids. So I got lucky that was my name, and my mom, actually I think my legal first name was meant to be Olaolu, which is Nigerian.
Okay.
Olaolu. And then my mom said that I liked Manthurs, so she just left it as Manthurs. She just she swapped Manthurs for Laulu. Did I say right? Yeah. So it was Manthurs to Laulu. And and it means a man born on Thursday. Literally, man and Thursday is in that name, just without a day. So
your name Manthurs means a man born on Thursday.
Yeah.
Dang. That's awesome. So obviously you're, doing your street interviews. Yeah. You've been since I've known you, you've been taking YouTube and social media pretty seriously, right? Like as a career and not just kind of as a hobby, like using it to help push yourself forward, kind of sharpen those skills.
Yeah.
When did you kind of think like, okay, I have these interests. This is my natural personality. How did you land on like broadcast and like TV and hosting?
So, to be honest with you, bro, this is going to be very funny. I did not want to be a YouTuber, a TikTok creator, Instagram. I did not want to do any of that because I just felt like people viewed those guys as just randos, just all over the internet doing whatever they could do and just make money out of it. I wanted to be a professional. I still want to be a professional. But as I said about DDG, that, you know, went from one path into the other, he was strategic about it. I am being strategic about mine. Right. So I have realized that, okay, yes, I do want to be a professional. But this thought came into mind when I was in New York. I think the month of November, I was like, I can actually make these platforms work for me and actually be seen as the professional that I want to be seen as opposed to just any other creator out there. And that was the moment for me. I was like, okay, I need to apply the right things, have a structure, make it built like a show type of thing. It's not there yet necessarily, but I am walking to that path. So it's not me shitting on the title of being a YouTuber or a TikToker anymore. It's like, I take pride in it now. Are you a YouTuber? I even tell people now, I'm a YouTuber. I don't like to tell people my day job, whatever. I'm like, I'm a YouTuber. I create content. I'm TikTok, less of a TikTok. I just say YouTube. Yeah. Because that's really where I want most things to be and excel.
Yeah. So when did you think that, like, when you got to America when you were 17?
Yeah.
So prior to that, did you have like a lot of exposure to like broadcast, like hosts, people like Jimmy Fallon? Like, did you get to see that? Was that the dream before you got here, or was that something that once you kind of started living life here, you were like, oh, that's what I want to do?
You're asking very, very good questions. No, I'm serious. I like the questions because before I moved here, guess what I was doing? I kid you not. I think at the age of 7, 6, 8, just very young, shortly after I turned 5, like 6, 7, 8, around there, I would look up the internet, search up things like this guy that I really liked at that point, Jaden Smith. Mm-hmm. I really loved Jaden Smith. I loved his acting. I just liked him and I was just amused by certain people. Rosen Fagan from Step It Up.
Yeah.
I would look those guys up and be like, agents, how to be on Disney Channel, how to be on TV, even in Nigeria and Lagos. Like, I would be like, how can I do something on TV here in Lagos? There's this show called Papa Jasko in Lagos, Nigeria. And I reached out. Imagine a 6, 5, 7-year-old calling those companies like, hey, how can I be part of this? How can I join? How can I?
That's amazing.
Had no idea the process. Right. I did not know it. I was just doing my part. What I thought, like, is it easy? Like, I'm in Nigeria. I want to be on Disney. I see people like Rosen Fagans. So just to cut the story short, I wanted to be an actor. I was thinking like, okay, anytime I come to the US for summer holiday, I'm going to go to an acting school. I'm going to do this. So I wanted to be an actor because that was the only avenue I knew to be seen on TV. I was just amused by the whole TV society, TV production, just seeing myself on there. And I just felt drawn and called to it. For example, I would ask my friends some days, like, what if I just disappeared now? You never saw me. And the next time you hear or see me, I'm on TV. How would you feel? No, I'm serious. Those are the questions I was asking. And it just wasn't my heart every time. And the last few weeks I had in Lagos, Nigeria, I was on a date actually at the cinema with this girl. And I was like, I'm going to be gone in 2 weeks. But I want you to know that before the next time you see me, I'm going to be on that big screen. Like, you're going to be paying to watch me on the screen. And yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, I started with acting, and then I had no idea about TV hosting or presenting or any of that stuff until later on with my experience at ACC here in Austin. When I did some hosting for them, I did not even know about that. And then that just sparked my interest. I was like, I really didn't like the scripted world because I was in acting, but I wasn't really enjoying it, like, because I couldn't really be myself. But the hosting was more like me. Right. And I was like, Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you have such the personality for that type of like work, because you are so engaged, right? Like we weren't sitting here for more than 2 minutes before you were like, story time. Like I have things to say, which I love, and which is why I think you're going to have the success.
Thank you.
That you are, striving for. Talk to me a little bit about, so you're moving, one of your goals is to move into kind of the mainstream, kind of the limelight, spotlight. In that space, you kind of have to be somewhat politically correct, kind of safe, kind of, not too dangerous on one side or the other, because you kind of need to just play it safe. As someone from a different culture and different country, different continent, with a very different upbringing for a while, right? Like you were 17 when you came, so you like grew up somewhere else. Do you feel like you have a very different approach to just life as Americans? And has that presented any kind of challenge for you in terms of the career pursuit that you're on?
First thing, when you're in Rome, act like the Romans. I would say that to begin. So I feel like with the political tension in the US, it's a lot. Yeah. So you have to be smart about how you coin your words. Phrasing does a lot of harm and a lot of good. How you phrase your questions, things you ask, your follow-up questions too might be misleading and people can come after you. So, and that is something I'm practicing right now on my social media, which I feel like is also very helpful. Before the big opportunity comes, I need to understand those small skills here and there. And, it has been a challenge. I wouldn't say I've been backfired for anything I say, because I always try to play safe. And one of the main things I stand by on my platforms is less of me and more of you. So I'm just asking you follow-up questions. I'm trying to get more out of you. I'm just playing the devil's advocate, really. I'm not telling you what I want you to believe or what I believe, really. So how I approach it is more from an informed standpoint. So you're telling me what I ask you a question, and then you're telling me what you think. And then I'm going to be like, okay, that's really interesting. I appreciate you saying that. However, some other person might say this.
Right.
And
present that. And
present that. And yeah, exactly. And I try to present facts, so it doesn't look like it's me saying it, because if it's me, that could be hurtful to me, my image, the company that's sponsoring me, the station and all of that. I'm going to lose my career, everything. But it's like when I can present facts and everything to back it up. And you see, that's how you see my street interviews are not just traditional street interviews where you just take a mic, go. Like I mostly have facts following them. Like I try to cite something somewhere, so you know that this guy is not just most of the time just spitting out something he thinks or something.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the things I do that I find to be really helpful. Although I have thought about scenarios where, this might be out of your question, but where I might be forced to say something or present an idea like I believe in it, because the higher ups want the show to reflect that. Right. And what if that conflicts with my personal belief? What am I going to do?
That's the question.
That's the $1 million question. That's very, very tough.
Yeah, well, I think it's really smart that you're thinking about those things now, because I think everybody eventually gets faced with the crossroads of, I have this thing that I want to do, but a part of making that reality might mean compromising on something that matters a lot to me. And in everything we do, we have to make compromises, right? Like in relationships, you have to compromise. If you just live your life with it's my way or the highway, you're going to end up with very few friends. Yeah. So there is value in learning how to navigate compromise and choosing where it makes sense to say, hey, I'm going to let go of that thing that I want because there's something bigger that I want that matters more. But then there are things that they're fundamental to who we are, to our identity, and we can't afford to compromise. Or if we compromise, we lose ourselves. And so the danger is when the temptation is so great that the dream is presented to you with the caveat of, but you have to compromise on something that matters so much to you. And so I think you're really wise now in thinking about what are the things that I do believe, that I know are true, that I want to stick to.
Yeah.
And how am I going to deal with a situation where I'm asked to either reject those things or compromise them, or anything else. So I think I think it's smart for you. And it's cool it's cool to me to be involved in this part of your story because, when we think of Jimmy Fallon and Trevor Noah, like we only think of them after they made it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we don't hear from the people who knew them when they were unsuccessful, quote unquote, and struggling, right? Like we only really hear the success stories. It's the same thing with like viral videos. You know how many content creators are making things that no one sees, right? Like, how many people who have gone viral, how much content they've made that you've never seen or heard of? Yeah. You only know of the thing that hit. Yeah. And you look at them and think, oh, they must have it all together. They must have figured out the formula. It's like, no, you only are getting to see the highlights. You're not seeing the full picture.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to get to be in a conversation with you where you're grinding right now before the like big break has happened. And for you to have the self-awareness to say, what skills do I need to be learning? What skills do I need to sharpen so that I'm prepared that when the call comes in, when the offer comes in, I'm ready to take it and I'm ready to say yes, or I know what it needs to be in order for me to say yes.
Yeah. There are two things I want to add on to what you just said. You iterated what I said about things I need to be learning right now. So when that opportunity comes. So originally, me just starting a YouTube was supposed to be just a portfolio that I could show TV stations like, hey, I do stuff, take me on, and then I'll just and then I'll just forget about the YouTube. But I realized over time that no, this is something I can keep doing that will keep molding me and shaping me up to be the best host that I could possibly be. And and I'm really appreciative of that light that the Lord, showed me and threw in my heart and just shined my eyes to see really late last year. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. You've been doing YouTube and social media for a while. And like you said, it's kind of become not just a means to an end, but you've actually found a lot of joy in it. Yeah. And you have a lot of pride in the work you're doing. Is it always easy? Like, how does it affect, I guess, your mental health? Like, what's that experience been like as you've kind of grinded towards this long-term goal?
When you ask that question, I have this rule. Whenever someone asks me a question and then the first thing that pops into my mind, I just have to say it because it connects. One day I was driving back home. I think I was driving to the club with a friend. And then she asked me, she was like, hey, Manthurs, like, how is it like doing all of this content creating and you're working full time? And then, back in school, you were doing internships, doing everything. She was like, isn't it hard? Like, don't you ever not have time? And I looked her dead in the eye. I said, if you really, really want something, you would make the time for it. You would make the time for it. Like, I have shifted and rewired and reshaped my whole schedule to make sure I get the things I need to get done, to be sure this area of my life is on date, is up to date and is being updated, is on track and all of that. So to answer your question specifically, when I first started, it did take a toll on my mental health in the sense that I was always trying to chase the light, if that makes sense.
Right,
like,
you were just trying to get the big break immediately.
I was just trying to go after it. Like, oh my God, like I would see several ads on TikTok or something. If you're not viral right now, you need to be doing these 3 things. You need to post 2 times a day. I'm like, And then I would follow all of those things and do it religiously. Like, oh my God, it's almost 4. I need to go post. Oh my God, it's almost 5. I need to go post. Oh my God. It's like, relax, And then I went on retreat, Bible retreat with my org when I was still in college, UT, Longhorns for Christ. The campus minister in person of Kerry McCall told me. Because we were out in the jacuzzi in the hotel where we were staying. And I was like, oh my God, I have to go post now. And then he asked me a question. I can't remember specifically what we were talking about before that came up. But then he said, it sounds to me more like this thing is controlling you. You don't have control over it. And that's one place you want to be with everything you're doing. You want to be the one in control, not the thing controlling you. Because at that point, you don't even know who you are. You don't know your limits. Like when we're talking about compromise, you don't know how far you're going to go because you just want it. You just want it right now.
Right.
But if you are in control, you're able to determine what is a bad move, what is a good move, and stuff like that. And that was the moment I was like, okay, I'm not going to let anyone tell me if I'm not doing this right now, then I'm not going to go viral. Like, Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take my pace. I've seen people post only one time and they get 15 million overnight. So what is to say that my story can be like that? Of course, I'm not going to post one time. Right. But with consistency, with being deliberate, intentional, all of that, I believe I'm going to get there. So it was taking a toll on me at that point until I took a turn and realized this and looked inwards and started to be patient with myself and not just chase everything, like be more intentional. And in New York, I remember just breaking down. Like I actually called Kerry McCall, like, hey, Kerry, like, I don't know, I'm really bad. I'm in a bad place. I keep posting. Nothing is working. I just feel like what I want is not achievable and I just can't settle for anything else. It's just like I wasn't patient. I wasn't giving myself time to understand. And, in life, to be truly a master of something, you need to give yourself at least 10 years. 10 years is what it takes. So it's like I've gotten to that point where I told myself, 10 years. Can I give myself 10 years to work on this and truly be a master at this craft? All other things aside, can I do that? And I was like, yes, I don't see myself doing anything else. And that's when I knew, like, okay, I'm ready to take charge now. So it's been a lot less, although there are still, areas here and there where I start to compare or, feel like I'm not doing well or here, which is normal. But at the end of the day, God always brings me through that and, uplifts me in a way that I cannot explain, that I just feel like I'm on the right path and my break is coming, but I'm just going to be patient and learn what he has to teach me at the moment. Yeah,
that's so good. And you should feel that's really rare. And you should know that level of maturity and of self-awareness and humility to say, hey, I'm going to do the things that I can do. And then I'm not going to get caught up in the things I can't control. Yeah. And I'm going to trust that the work that I'm doing will pay off and that I'm not going to get lost in comparison and in the insecurity of looking at someone else who has what I don't have or any of those things. And so for you to be able to say that now, I think is huge. Yeah. That's a superpower that a lot of people don't have. And so, I really want you to be encouraged in that. I think the other thing you said too that really resonates with me is when you desire something or you really have true motivation for something, you make time. Yeah. There is so much more time that we have than we think. In my opinion, when people say, I just don't have time for it, I think a lot of times what they're saying is within the time I've set aside to do stuff, I don't have time. And it's because they haven't in their mind decided that Netflix is an option to get rid of. That shopping is an option to get rid of. That time on your phone throughout the day is an option to get rid of. And so when they think about how much time they have, they've already built in so many things that they've decided are necessary that actually aren't. Yeah. And that's why they probably mean it when they say, I'm super busy and I don't have time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you are super busy, but you've decided that you need at least 2 hours to unwind at night. You've decided that you need time between, work and going to do something else. Yeah. You've decided that you need a certain amount of sleep that's more than just what's necessary for a healthy living, right? You have all these unspoken rules for yourself that you haven't decided to look at to really see if they are necessary. And then when someone says, hey, why don't you say you want to do this? Like, I don't see that happening in your life. And their response is, well, I don't have enough time. It's like, well, you do, but you're not willing to cut out Netflix. Like, you're not willing or with finances. It's like you talk about how you don't have the money to invest in the things that you want, like your passion. And I would never suggest anybody be irresponsible with their finances in pursuit of a passion. But when you regularly go to Starbucks, when you regularly eat out, when you spend money on a day pass at a gym that's $25 and you want to go to multiple gyms because you like the vibes, that's all fine. But that's a lot of excess. It's not necessary. And so people should do the things that they want to do. People should be able to live lives and spend their money and their time how they want. But when they're in a conversation and someone's pressing them on like, do you really want it? And they say yes, they should be able to look at their behavior and it should match up with what they're saying. And if they say, hey, I really have this passion to build this craft that I'm really excited about. And yet when you say, well, like, can you show me what it is that you're doing to make that happen? And they say, well, I just don't have time. But they've got, 12 hours every other day on their phone screen time. And they're doing all these other things. It's like there's a disconnect here. And I don't think people are lying or being disingenuous when they're saying like, I'm too busy. I think they do feel busy. I think you have to have a really honest conversation about like, are you actually over scheduled? Are you actually too busy? Or are you unwilling to give up some comforts that you have taken for granted and that you include in your life? And maybe if you remove some of those things, it'll be uncomfortable. But ultimately, after this period of time where you invest, it'll pay off.
It will. And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't.
I can feel it deep inside my soul. Like my time is coming and it's going to be so good. Like, it's like God has assured me, like everything I need to know is that it's coming. It's already there. It's existed. It exists in the spiritual. It's just yet to manifest in the physical. And to go back to your point, it's like I make time for this. Like sometimes I have, when I was in college, I had homework, I had this internship, I had that, I had to maybe be with family. There was some point where it started to affect my relationships around. But one thing that I decided for myself is nothing is going to come in between me and where I want to be and where I am right now. Which is where I am right now is the content creation that I'm doing, and where I want to be is where, the future I see myself on TV, hosting all of these shows and all. It's like, if anything or anybody is trying to come in between that, like, I always move things around. I always move it around in a way, though, that it wouldn't be harmful or disrespectful to anybody. But I just do what's best for that. No,
that's really great. You mentioned that it can affect, sometimes it can get in the way of real life, right?
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of conversations with creators and people who are influencers or who just take their social media more seriously in a business sense than maybe the average person. But the common theme through all of that is when the rubber hits the road on prioritization of time when it comes to social media and when it comes to like your in-person friends. And is that something that you've run into where, because your content creation and social media presence is such a critical part of your long-term goal, have you run into maybe your real life friends, your in-person friends, feeling like you're not as available as they might want you to be?
When I first started, yes. I felt like, for example, my family went to Miami for my mom's birthday. And right within that time, the days we were in Miami, I think we were there for 5 days. I was planning on recording. I was planning on, posting. I was planning on doing all those things, which took me away from family and editing too. It's like, was I stupid? When I think about it right now, it's like, man, like some things are just so important that you just have to put that down and keep going. So it's like I kind of figured out moments and occasions that, that is secondary. It's not as important. Family always comes first, because all that social media you're working on, all it needs is one thing or maybe one mistake. They can ban you and you can't post anything. But your family is there, who are you going to run back to explain? Your family. So right. It's like some things some things are just, all the people that are racking up numbers on Instagram, it can go in a flash. It can go at everything you've worked. Sneeko, Sneeko?
Mm-hmm.
Real quick. If I don't know him, I don't know what he's done, what he prioritizes. But if it's someone who was like, all I know is my social media, I don't want anybody else in my life, I just want my virtual fans, all that, you've lost everything.
Mm.
So I had to start building relationships and solidifying those relationships outside of social media. Like my friends, the friends I had around me when I would first start, they would be really happy with helping me out. Like, hey, could you help me record?
Right.
Could you help me record? But it got to a time when they started to feel like, I feel like you only hit me up when you want me to record, Manthurs. I don't like that, And most of them wouldn't even say anything. They'll just feel that way. But I felt it within, and some people would tell me. And it got to a moment I was like, okay, how can I avoid them feeling that type of way?
Yeah.
Because I truly need your help. And I don't know anybody else to ask than my friends. And I was like, okay, I pay them. So every time I record an hour, I pay $20. And I usually don't go over an hour and a half. So maybe I think the highest I've paid somebody is like maybe 40. But I always pay them. Even that wasn't enough. It still felt like I was using them. They sometimes felt like that. And I, even on my own part, felt like I'm using these guys, because whenever I want to record, like every week, I'm like, can you help me? Can you help me? And it's like, because I can't hang out with everybody every week. So if you don't hear from me 2 weeks, maybe we text or something, and I'm like, the only time I'm like, let's meet up, I'm like, can you help me record? It's some type of way.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out, okay, I cannot be relying on other people to create content. Some people do that, like, oh, I didn't have anybody to record, so I'm just going to stay home today. No content for next week. I'm like, hell no. What did I say? Nobody or anything is going to stand in between me with the place I'm in right now and the place I want to be in the future. What did I do? I got a tripod. I got a really sturdy tripod. And I'm like, I put my camera on there.
Yes.
Yeah, you are actually the one who put me on the camera, because you guys, this guy is a blessing in my life. I was willing to, when you start off as a really small entrepreneur, like business entrepreneur, you don't want to grow, you don't want to do anything. You're just happy where you are. You're just comfortable. You don't want to grow outside of the comfort zone. That was where I was. And then he was like, I think you should go up to a camera, and then edit on Adobe and all of that stuff. I was like, nah, bro, I don't need all that. I'm fine with my iPhone 13. I'm just going to get it going with another iPhone. A lot of people do that and they go viral. Why can't I? But this man, what he did for me was the best thing I could have done for myself, because that improved the quality, and I stand out. I don't have the millions of subscribers yet, but if you see my stuff, it's definitely standing out. It's growing, and I must say thank you. But to answer your question, I had to make sure I could do these things by myself without putting my relationship or anybody in jeopardy or anything like that, and just letting everyone, if you want to be there, come. If you want to help me, come. If you don't want to, that's fine. It's still going to happen.
Oh man. First of all, thanks for saying that. Like, that means so much, to me, that was your experience. And I just want to make sure I say thank you, because
thank you.
I was doing a podcast earlier, not today, but before, with someone else. And she said some really like encouraging things. And I didn't stop to say, like, what you just said made my day. Oh, wow. And so what you just said really is so encouraging to me. And so I want to make sure I acknowledge that. And dude, also just like, you're such a special human, like just truly your perspective of like, no one thinks about paying their friends to do favors for them in that way, you know, like that's already above and beyond. Like when you get to the platform, when you get to where you're going, the stories that you have are going to be way more encouraging to people than any success you might have later. Like the fact that you're doing it right now, like you're doing it correctly, and you are treating people well, and you're having honest conversations. And when people are coming to you saying, hey, I feel like you only hit me up if you need me to film. It's like, you took that seriously. Yeah. Like you listened to those people and said, well, here's where I'm at. Here's what I'm doing. And I'm really sorry. I don't want you to feel this way. I would still love your help. And if I can pay you and that would be helpful, great. Yeah. But if not, then I'll get a tripod. Like I don't want to ask too much of you, but I also don't have anyone else. Yeah. And so I think that's huge, and I think that's so special. And I think you have such a unique personality and an energy and an approach and a perspective on the world that I think is really valuable. It draws people in. It's why you got invited, to do awesome things with Comedy Central, with Trevor Noah and NBC up in New York. Like that's unheard of. And yet you got to do that at such a young age. And I think that's amazing. And I know you're going to continue to do awesome stuff. I'm glad that you upgraded that camera. I'm glad that you upgraded that mic, that you started adding that stuff. And I agree. I think your content has taken leaps and bounds ahead of what it was when I first met you. But one of the things I'm really interested in is you have a different cultural background than most people that you're going to meet in America. What's something maybe that you really value from like your Nigerian culture that you think is missing from American culture that you think we could really, benefit from? Or just something that you miss maybe, or something you wish there was more of here?
I wouldn't say it's missing. I'll just say I'm going to show more of. I would say I will show more of. And then if I create that, then it's going to be there because other people will follow on and catch on. Yeah.
And what is that thing?
Celebration of our dressing more. Like our culture. Like I'm a Yoruba boy. So my Yoruba dressing style.
Like apparel, like what you wear?
Yeah. Okay. Like the traditional agbada, the women buba and rule, like stuff like that. Like here's one of the visions I have. It's going to come to pass in due time though, is every night when I get introduced out for the show that I'm going to be hosting, late night, when I envision it, I think it's more late night. So all of my late night shows, I'm going to be styling sometimes in my Nigerian Yoruba outfits and come out dancing to Afro beats, adding a little bit more culture, to it. So like more of that presence. So the music, the dressing, and I will say a lot more of the food spots as well.
Okay.
Yeah, like those are the top three for me. Because I mean, America can be Nigeria, so those are the top three that I can transfer over here. And of course, in my own household, my friends around me, people in my circle, teach them more of like our respect. We're really big on respect. So, how to act around people and stuff, like, especially my kids. Like, I'm going to really tell them, like, I'm going to raise them up like
the kids you are going to have someday.
Yeah.
Or the kids that you have now.
No, I don't have kids. Okay. The kids I'm going to have in the future, I'm really going to train them up like a Nigerian father.
I love that.
Like, You cannot go to somebody's house and not greet them properly, or not bring stuff to their house, or so you cannot just do some things that will fly by here,
right?
You have to be respectful all the time.
I agree. I was also raised in a proper manners. Respect your elders, respect strangers, authorities. Like there's a difference between personally feeling respect, like, oh, I respect you because you've done something, and showing someone respect. Like, I think you can show someone respect even if you don't hold respect for them personally. Yeah. Right? Like, and I was raised that way too, where, hey, if there's an authority figure, I'm going to show respect to them because that's the right thing to do. I'm not going to say like, well, I don't know you, and so I don't know if I respect you, and so I'm going to not show respect to you until you earn it from me. Yeah. But yeah, I love that. I think, that whole cultural heritage thing that is so significant to you. I think that we don't really seem to have that as like a general thing where we don't, there's not specific customs maybe that we cling to or really give us an identity of some sort. What about like relationally? Have you ever run into someone who's like a friend who said like, hey, you do this all the time and that's really like off-putting to me, or that's really, I've never seen someone do that, and you just thought like, I've never thought of that as different. I guess that must just be a cultural difference.
That's a very, very interesting question. When I first got here, I used to call people fat. Yeah, but like I wasn't mean about it. It's just, so actually I lied. One thing that I'm gonna also try to make people kind of get used to, not saying I'm gonna be calling people fat. It's just like, so
nice save.
How do I say it? It's like in America, when you see a cup, for example, this glass right here. In Nigeria, you just call it a cup of water.
Right.
But in America, you can't just say a cup of water. You have to be like the cylindrical container that holds water. It's like you have to
describe it in a way that doesn't accidentally communicate a value in the wrong way.
Yes. It's like you have to be very gentle and carefully pick your words in a way that it can be used against you. And that is something that I feel like I miss in Nigeria. It's like I just call this a glass of water, and not saying I just want to call people fat. No, please don't do that. Don't do this to me. But that's not what I'm saying. But I feel like, so that's what I used to do, like something like that, like my sister, for example, she was the one who said you don't do that here. I was like, she was like, I think I asked something and she was like, who's that? What did that person? I was like, she's fat, blah blah. She's like, don't do that.
You can't say that.
You can't say. And I was like, I didn't say anything wrong. I mean, she is,
Right.
But I learned with time, like, okay, you don't say stuff like that. You don't like, for example, in Nigeria, when you do something really good and people are like, oh my God, that's badass. Do you know what they say?
What?
They'll look at you and be like, you're a bastard. Yeah, but you can't say that here. Right. I've not heard anyone say bastard in the U.S. since
Not in a good way.
Yeah. I've never heard, even in the bad way. I feel like you have to push someone to the wall for them to call you a bastard. Like,
it's like an old school insult. Yeah.
But in Nigeria,
we got new ones. We threw that one away. Yeah.
But in Nigeria, like, if someone did something so good and you're happy, you'd be like, bastard, and you will be smiling as they're calling you a bastard because you know where the person's heart is. It's not about the literal word that they just spoke. It's about where they're coming from. So, and I'll connect that with, sometimes I see people say some things to me that an average American would take offense to, but then I'm like, I know this person and I believe 100% I know where this person's heart is. So I'm not going to take offense to that. So, as opposed to just, what did you say? What did you say?
Right.
Yeah.
Dang. I mean, thanks for sharing that. I totally can see that, where sometimes, you come from a culture where you're like, well, we say what we see, and it's like, well, these days You can see something and you can process it, but then you have to use the second layer of what is culturally acceptable to say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's dangerous. I mean, like cancel culture.
Yeah.
For whatever your thoughts are about that.
Yeah.
Even if you think it doesn't exist, the fact that we're talking about it all the time means it exists in some capacity.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I'm sure that that's been a challenge, especially for someone who's trying to, make a public reputation.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that that's definitely a struggle.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like you can't make everybody happy. People are still gonna find
and you shouldn't
fault
try
and everything. Yeah, you can't just try to speak your truth, but be respectable about it. Don't try to make someone look bad while you're doing that. Just speak your truth. Like my phone has a cream colored case.
Right.
But that doesn't mean
I'm not offended by the fact that mine is similar, but it's actually yellow.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, just speak your truth, but don't try to be like, well, mine, is more superior to yours because yours is a darker cream because it's closer to yellow than mine. Like, nah, just speak yours and be done.
Hey, that's wise. That's good. Retweet. What do you're obviously a deep feeler. And maybe that's not obvious. But it is to me in that what you talk about, it tells me the way you talk about what you believe and what matters to you, at least to me, communicates and tells me that you've spent time thinking about it. You've spent time processing it. Mm-hmm. You've actually taken the time to do that work, to think through, here's who I am. Here's what matters to me. Here's who I want to be. Here's what I need to do to make that happen. Mm-hmm. Right? Here are the steps I need to take to get from where I am to where I want to be. Yeah. When you're processing, when you're alone, when the camera's not on, mm-hmm. and you're just you.
Yeah.
What are the things that you spend your time thinking about?
To be honest,
are you just always grinding for the next project, or do you kind of just stop and process life?
Yeah, I'm thinking. One of the things that have been on my mind lately is, which I have taken a stance on, but is this thing you're doing, this career path you've chosen for yourself. Although I know what God has put in my heart, the vision I see, I mean, it's my vision. No one else can see it. That's why it's my vision. If for some reason, let's just say the height that I think I was going to reach, I never reached that. Would I still be happy doing this?
That's a great question.
Would I still be happy? It's on the train in New York. I was with my friend who used to be my roommate, Ander. We were having this conversation. He wants to be a director for movies and stuff. And I asked him, bro, we are both taking career paths that is not guaranteed. You can be a director in, let's say, Leander, Texas, for example. You're not going to be Steven Spielberg level or anyone. Nobody's going to be rolling down the red carpets for you, except those who know you in Leander and you can be that, but you're still a director. Are you happy? Will you be happy? And that's how you know that you truly love what you're doing and you're made for it. I ask myself that question. If I don't get to host a late night show or a morning show, let's say I'm only a lifestyle TV host in Austin, Texas, for example, or let me choose a smaller city. I don't know, in Conroe, Texas.
Yeah.
Am I going to be happy? I thought about it for a while. I thought about it because I know this lifestyle. The vision I see it so bright, but I'm like, what if that doesn't appear? Because, sometimes we feel like, I'm really going to get there because I'm so gifted and all. But sometimes the things that motivate us is the end result and not necessarily the journey and the things that could happen along the way. If you're still motivated to achieve that, knowing the fact that you might not reach that height that you have envisioned or you get for yourself, if you don't feel happy, then I think you should second guess it. So where I'm saying and where I'm going to with this is, after thinking about that, I realized that this is where really my gifts, my talent, everything really is. I pour out my all just doing this like on camera, communicating with people, presenting, hosting shows. I love to communicate, make people laugh, make people forget about their worries and stress, just create a space where you can be comfortable and communicate and talk to me and just let your guard down and just feel my vibe, just be vulnerable with me. And I don't see myself looking at the computer. I don't see myself editing. I don't see myself like, this is where I thrive. So even if maybe the height I'm going to reach, God forbid, but let's say it's the height I reach, making $70,000 a year. I know I followed my heart. I followed my dream. I'm fine. Maybe at that point in life, my interest might spark somewhere else. I don't know. But I'm still going to follow it because at this moment, that's how I feel. I don't know. Did I answer your question or I really veered off it?
No, that was good.
Okay.
I think that's so powerful in a really honest way. That's a question people are not willing to ask themselves or contend with, which is, if I do what I'm saying I want to do, if I get to do it, but the context around how I'm doing it is different than my dream, will I still be happy? Right? Like, if you're someone who wants to be an actor, do you want to be an actor because you love to act, or do you want to be an actor because you think the way to get famous is to be an actor? And so if you were cast in every local show in your local town on stage where everyone in the city you lived in knew your name, but no one outside of that city knew your name, would that mean that you were successful? And if the answer is no, then it might mean that it's not the craft that you love, it's what you think that craft could get you that you love.
Yeah.
And I had to reconcile that myself because I grew up as a theater kid loving to perform. I was just like you, watching the Disney Channel being like, that's going to be me someday, right? Like Zach and Cody, I was like that. I'm going to be drawing those Mickey ears someday. And what I really loved wasn't acting. I mean, I do love to perform and I do love the craft, but the fire inside me was to be famous. It was to be well known. It was to be loved by everybody. It wasn't the grind of memorizing lines and creating a character and coming up with a backstory and perfecting that craft. And so when I thought about, hey, do I want to spend 4 years of my collegiate life spending money taking classes to get better at this passion I have? The answer was no, I shouldn't do that. I might want to, but my actual desire isn't to be an actor. It's to be famous and successful in a more arbitrary and cultural way. And I was just looking at the performing world as an avenue to do that. And so when, my parents had a really honest conversation about me with like, Dave, what are the goals that you have in life? Like, my number one goal is to become a husband and a father. And my number two goal is to be good at both of those things. Right? If I want to be a good and present husband and father, it'll be very difficult for me to do that if I'm traveling all the time as a performer. It'll be very hard to be a present and engaged father when I'm doing shows in the evening and I'm at rehearsals and I'm on the go and I'm not at home. Right? And so I had to decide, like, even if I made it, even if all my dreams came true, all the 16-year-old dreams I had, like, the life that I would have probably actually wouldn't fulfill me because I had it was selfish. Like, it wasn't genuine. Like, what I really want is to be the not stay-at-home dad necessarily, but the family man, right? Like the person who spends time with his family and loves his kids, loves his wife, and loves his community. And that's what's going to fill me up. But I had to let go of I'm going to be famous. Because first of all, I probably wasn't going to be, right? Like the odds are so slim to be famous. And then I decided, you know what, how can I find things that allow me to scratch the itch of my passions without sacrificing maybe these other things? And so I think for you, I think it's so smart and wise that you're spending that time now thinking like, hey, even if I don't hit the jackpot in terms of what I've decided as success, even if I have stability and I'm doing my craft, like I'll find joy in that. That's a really good way of knowing you're on the right path.
I also think that fame is relative. Like it's not, you cannot measure everybody and be like, who is most famous. Like, of course you can do that, but how do I explain what I'm trying to say? You cannot.
There's some people who like aren't well known, but to some people they are the most important person in the world.
Yes, exactly. Like everybody cannot know you. Like if your whole goal is to be like Will Smith, you cannot be like Will Smith. You cannot. Like you will be like yourself, and that could be whatever level of fame. I don't know. Right now, as I am, I'm famous to 9,680 something people on my YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm serious. Like it's relative. Like if you're thinking everybody in the world is gonna know, a large percent will, but at the same time, you might have good craft. For example, there's this artist I was trying to think about that is Pop Corday. You know Corday?
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that's how I'm pronouncing his name. If you watch this, bro, I love you. I respect how you have created your own path in rap. I like your rap. He's famous, and he was giving a TED talk one time where he called himself a B-class celebrity or something like that. I'm like, that's very interesting that he classified himself as that, because he probably understands that, yes, he's famous, but he's not chasing the A class. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's not trying to be A-list for the sake of it.
He's just happy where he is and talking to the people. Like, just to be in that spot is a gift. Like, be happy where you are and talk to the people that know you, and not just chasing to be on top of everything. Because if you keep doing that, you're never going to rest.
Right.
Like, it's unending if you're just chasing fame.
Yeah. So, you know, I want to always make sure that these conversations and what I'm doing here is back and forth. And so I know I always tell people, hey, think of some things that you might want to ask me, because I have these questions prepared and there's things I want to talk to you about. But I do want to open up the floor. Like, is there any questions that you have for me in terms of life and craft and all the things?
Yeah. I do know you are running an agency for creators, or
so I co-founded a digital media agency with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And we work with artists and creatives, nonprofit, small businesses to do digital media strategy and production. And so that's a side gig. That's one of the side things that I kind of do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how is that going? Because I really wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, well, you actually helped us out with some projects and stuff. It's going really well. It's one of those things where there was a skill and a passion that I had, and there was a skill and a passion that a friend of mine had, and we kind of looked at it and said, hey, this is a good marriage of skills and interests where we can tackle projects and kind of coordinate who does what, and we have different strengths, but it's also not our full-time thing. And I think that's what's made it feel flexible and be able to have the freedom of, hey, we can take on projects as they come, but because we have full-time positions that kind of bring in the stability, we can, synthesize the opportunities to make sure we're doing the right ones. And so it's been really good. We're doing, different projects here and there for different people. Nothing too big, I really value having a full-time job and being on salary. And so I kind of will probably stay in that lane in terms of I want to have the consistency. I want someone else to take care of my paying my taxes, and someone else who takes care of the benefits and all those things. But it's just slowly, I'll allowing for new opportunities. We were just in New York a couple weeks ago and getting to shoot with some folks. But yeah, it's going really well. And just kind of a reminder of, hey, when you choose to get good at something in your free time, you can take that skill and monetize it in a way that is, you're still doing the thing that you love, but you're also, making some money off of it. So it's been good.
That's beautiful. And again, it's been a long time since I've seen you, and this whole podcast thing is new. So what sparked the interest? Because I don't think you mentioned that you have a interest in podcasts to me, which you don't have to. I'm just curious, how did that come about?
Oh, what a question. Honestly, this is my favorite type of interaction with people.
Yeah.
Sitting down and having intentional, meaningful conversations where people talk about the things that matter to them, the things they think about. That type of conversation is by far my favorite.
Reflective.
So I, as a human being, just love getting to be a part of these types of interactions. But I also found myself regularly, without the cameras and mics, having this type of conversation with people. Where I, as a photographer, I work with a lot of other creators. I work with a lot of other people who are like, I need content, I need gym reels, I need photos for my website, I need social. And so I work with these people, and I don't just want to have clients. I want to have relationships. I want to have meaningful partnerships. And so I spend time getting to know the people I work with. Like, I don't want to just sit down with you, do a shoot, send you your photos, and part ways. Like, I want the relationship. I want to connect. I want to understand what it is that you're doing. How can my skill set best help your goals, and hopefully have this partnership? And so in those conversations, we would get into deep stuff. And I kept having conversations with people where I said, dang, I wish more people were here. And I've said this a couple times. So for audience members who have listened to more than one episode, first of all, kudos to you. They're way too long. But also, I keep saying this, but it's true. Like, I keep running into, man, like, I wish more people were here to talk about this, because I keep having the same one-on-one conversation, which means a lot of us feel the same way about it. Right? Like, there are so many content creators right now that you're following, or that are following you, that you have no idea, who are burning out, who are struggling because they have this passion, they have this goal, and they're making content, and no one's watching. No one's engaging. No one's giving feedback. No one's leaving comments. And they see you, who post a gym selfie with your 17 friends, being like, yes, get it, you're crushing it. And they're like, I posted this thing about my craft and no one is there. And so I just was like, there are so many people who have such substantial, unique perspectives, but because they haven't made it, no one's hearing from them. And I really believe everyone has something to say. And so I love the idea of a podcast is an opportunity to have someone come in and be taken seriously as themselves. To be able to sit down and say, hey, tell me about you. Tell me about what it is you're doing. Tell me about what you care about. What are you passionate about? Because I just love learning about that. I love hearing from people about what it is that they do and why they do it and all the things. And the nice thing about a podcast is that it cultivates and is conducive to that type of conversation. People aren't always ready to have serious conversations. People aren't always in the mood to get deep or to go to the next level. This is something that allows for that. And then the final thing for me was, I have the skills and resources to help people with their endeavors. And podcasts are kind of the most multi-functional way of creating content, because you have an hour-long worth of content with a bunch of clips, with a bunch of nuggets. You can pull video, you can pull audio, you can pull a bunch of stuff, and it can be used in a variety of ways. And so I was just like, if I love the conversation, then I can sit down, and if I can bring the audio and video and the production component. And so when a guest comes, not only do they get to have a meaningful conversation and experience, but they also can walk away with a ton of content that could be helpful for them. That's a win-win. Like, that's something that if I can help people hit their goals or get a little bit closer, and I also get to hear from their heart, like that's a no-brainer for me. And so after spending some time thinking about like what can I commit to and what makes the most sense, I just decided, let's do it. Yeah. Let's make it happen. Mm-hmm. And if it goes for 6 months and then I run out of people to talk to, great. The point was never for me to get an audience, for my podcast to blow up, for me to be successful. Yeah. It was, how can it be a resource to others? Mm. And if for whatever reason people start listening because they just like it, awesome. But that's not the goal. That's not the priority. Mm. The priority is what I can control, and I love that I'm able to help.
Yeah, I like two things. I mean, I liked everything you said, but there are two things that stuck out to me. Hopefully I don't forget the other one that I'm going to say after this. So when you said that your goal is just to help people get a step closer to their goals, like them leaving with content. Gary Vee, which you introduced me to a long time ago, he was like, do you know Gary Vee? I was like, no. He was like, it's like saying you want to be a basketballer and you don't know LeBron James.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
So, and I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense after I looked at him, because he gives a whole lot of strategies and stuff. He said that every interview I go for, I don't go because I enjoy to talk. I go because I know I can pull out content from that. And I always ask them for the content, because that's what gets my page going and my own thing going, how I can engage with people and all. And yeah, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to say that because he said it's very important, and that's how he gets a lot of his content. So you're being really helpful doing that. And another thing you said is being of service to other people is also something that's in my heart. Is just remember, no matter the height you reach, Manthurs, no matter the height you reach, always, always, always remember that you're a servant to the person beside you. Always remember, Jesus was he is the Son of God. He's alive. He is the Son of God, but he still went down to wash people's feet, mm-hmm. you know? And one way that I have chosen to train myself to always be grounded is, in church. Like, I volunteer. What do? I pick the trash at church. I pick the trash. I'm not shitting on it. I'm not saying it's not good or anything, but not everybody will do that.
Right.
I tell people something, they're like,
it's not a glorious.
Yeah. They're like, what do you volunteer in church? I'm like, I make sure everywhere is clean. I get a lot of, wow, that's really interesting, Like, I come into church, I'm always stylish. Like, I like to dress up and all, but I still take the damn trash out. It's like, you're a servant. Be a servant, try to work in the lowest of ways to make yourself grounded. In whatever way you can remain humble, do that. And yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that. That was really special.
Hey, I thank you. And that's one of my favorite things about you is that's so clear that you have a heart for putting other people first. It's so apparent in the way that you've conducted yourself, even in the pursuit of your goals. You've made sure to listen to the people in your life who have spoken up to say, hey, I know you're trying to reach these, specific career aspirations, but I'm feeling it a little bit on the back end. Like, I'm missing you, or I'm only getting you when you need me and not when I need you. And you've listened to that and you've responded to that in a really meaningful way. And, that's, to me, that's why it's so important to remember there are things bigger than any of your dreams. No matter what you want to do with your life, no matter what you do, no matter how you make money, there are things that transcend that. And it's who you are. It's how you are in the world, who you are to other people. And for me, my number one goal in life is to be a servant to those around me, to put the experience of others above my own experience, to look to give more than I take, to look to find how I can help. And as long as I'm not compromising on my core values, I'm going to do what I can to shift how I live to make room for those around me. And to ask questions like, what is it that you need? And I really try to do that with people where I say, hey, I know you're going for this specific thing. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about doing client testimonials for the athletes that you train? No, I have the equipment and the time and the desire to help a friend. You're my friend. You have this, business. You have this thing. I'm available. Let me know how I can help.
Yeah.
And that's who I want to be. Like, that's who I want to be more than I want to be rich or have this huge portfolio as a photographer or get all these cool opportunities. Like, I want to be the person that someone says, Dave, honestly, I would just rather work with you because of who you are and how you treat me and how you talk to me.
Yeah.
And even if you're not as talented as other people, and even if you're not as connected as other people, I would rather my experience be with you because of who you are than because of what you can do for me. And that'll always be my goal, right? Like, that'll always be my goal. And I'm better at talking about it than I am at doing it. Obviously, I still desire to be successful, and I still want to have all this professional success, but not at the expense of becoming who I want to be. And so, I just really am encouraged by you, because there seem to be very few people out there who not only are servant-hearted, but who say it out loud, who, when they're asked, hey, why do you decide to take out the trash when no one else was taking out the trash? And your response is, because the trash needs to be taken out. And I'm going to do that because it needs to be done. And if that's how I can serve, that's how I'm going to serve. That's such a rare character quality these days. And so I'm really encouraged by you, and I really appreciate who you are. And I know that whenever you get to where you're going, that's going to be a special place. And when you look back to see where you came from, there's going to be a whole bunch of smiles of people who have been impacted by you and who have been encouraged by you and loved and served by you. And not a lot of people can say that. A lot of times people step on others to get where they're going, and you're lifting other people up and you're bringing them with you. And so I really want to just encourage you in that, because it is huge. And you should know that that's something that's really special.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, shout out to my family. They always keep me in check. And most nights when I'm down and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't think I can do this. It's not easy. Sometimes it feels like it's not going to come. But, they always uplift and help me and motivate me. And, I'm just so thankful. I'm grateful to them and friends and other people around me. You show me the light where I did not even think there was light. And that changed a lot of things for me. And, just friends around all over the world. Yeah, I mean, all over the world. Yeah, of course. I got friends all over the world. My fans, my 9,680 fans. I love you guys. No, I take joy in the little things, because as the Bible says, don't doubt the days of little beginnings, because they were there for me when it all started. But anyway, just to say that, I just appreciate everyone in my circle that has impacted and help me.
That's awesome. Yeah, amen, man. They're just as lucky to have you. All right. Well, Manthurs, I so appreciate you coming by to sit down and get to connect with you. I know you're busy, I'm busy, and we don't get to catch up as often as I'd like to, but you have a fan for life, a subscriber for life.
Hey, thank you. Even if I say the wrong thing.
Even when you say the wrong thing, grace on grace on grace for brothers in Christ. So, man, I really appreciate you. Thanks for being here, and I'm excited to see what you do next.
Yes. More stuff, more creative, more space for people to talk. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.